You're listening to Inklings of Insight.
Hi, so I've got another book summary for you, The Five Core Conversations for Couples. And again, you can find this summary on Blinkist. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I think is good about this book and some of the things that I think are going to be particularly valuable for anybody interested in the content. So we've talked on a couple of occasions about communication and the nature of arguments and the nature of disagreements and navigating them and how you should look at them. And there's a couple of different ways, I guess, that you can approach it. Um, One being that, hey, these are great. We need to have more discussions, even if they're challenging. They'll draw us closer together, or we should, spend our time, um, arguing as little as possible. Well, I felt like it was interesting because with this particular book, in the initial um, kind of portion of it, it talks about um, kind of how you should approach um, conversations and how you should think about building and maintaining the connection. That's actually the first bullet point of the summary. And this particular quote talks about how arguments lead to disconnect, and that's the opposite of what you're going for. And whenever you're mad at your partner, you still need to communicate with them, and the silent treatment is not a good thing. It'll actually make things worse. So I thought that that was an interesting way to kind of bridge this dynamic of how we're thinking about how to approach disagreements and conversations. Um, but I thought this was hilarious because it actually talks about how some situations it's actually better for you to just be silent, which I thought was kind of spot on because, you know, they're kind of speaking to the fact that it's a little bit of both, right? You need to have conversations and you need to navigate your differences in perspective, but at the same time, some conversations are not conversations that need to be had, right? Sometimes the communication needs to be done in different ways, which, there's nonverbal communication and there's some conversations or some disagreements that you can work through um, in a way that's different than just having a full-blown discussion or argument. So in this particular situation, they're talking about, how um, one of the partners needs to use the restroom, even though the other partner told them that they needed to not drink too much water. And basically, there's no need for you to, offer your "I told you so" sort of situation, and basically cause unnecessary friction. So I thought that that was pretty funny. Um, in terms of some of the other things that this book addresses, in the past, we've talked about the different things that kind of are most prominent challenges for relationships. And one of the things that I really love about this book is it doesn't necessarily tell you in general terms um, where your conflicts come from or where your disagreements arise from, or like the nature of uh, disagreement. It really, to me, felt very pragmatic and practical when it talked about what you should actually talk about, and it also has some good information about tips on how you can have those conversations. But one of the interesting things that I felt was important to highlight about this particular book and the summary is that they talk about financial issues. And we know that statistically, financial issues is one of the bigger challenges when it comes to relationships. A study conducted by the Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts found that financial issues were a factor in approximately 22% of divorces. So I like the fact that, we've talked about compatibility, we talked about communication problems, but this particular book is highlighting another one of those top challenges for relationships and couples, which is financial issues. Then it also has some other topics that it addresses in the summary. So I highly recommend that you look at the summary and you take an inventory kind of what conversations need to be had. And I think it's particularly important when you're talking about new couples or newlyweds or people who are just beginning to get serious about a relationship. There are going to be things that you aren't able to cover in terms of incompatibility. You're not going to be compatible on every single aspect of your relationship. And that's just the nature of being with someone other than yourself. So I think this book is really helpful in helping you, as are the other books that we talked about, very helpful in helping you have a game plan for what are the major things we need to talk about so that we can get ahead of those disagreements that we might face. And I thought this was very useful content and material in that respect. So hope you found this useful. Again, as always, I wish you the best success.